The court falls still, yet you sense the pent-up tension waiting to erupt like a storm on the horizon. Glances flick cautiously, hushed conversations echo off the chilly walls, and at the focal point, a family stands on the brink of collapse. Tonight, secrets long hidden will be dragged into the light, and everything will ever after be changed. The courtroom is charged with tension, the air filled with tension as Kody enters first, shoulders squared, eyes sweeping the crowded room as if attempting to measure the loyalty of all present. The sound of his footsteps sweeps softly across the polished wooden floor, the sound somehow seeming to swell the import of the moment. Robin is behind her, her face white, hands tightly clasped together, knuckles turned white as if holding on to something to keep from floating away. Christine lingers a few steps back from her, posture stiff, jaw set, and eyes flashing with anger barely in check, thinking furiously through all the strategies she will have to employ in the next few hours. Janelle sits in the background, hands clasped on her lap, an expression of resignation coupled with timid fear, while Mary, the onlooker, leans forward ever so slightly, eyes frantically shifting about the room, reading every subtle movement, every tremor, every worried glance on the part of the other players. The judge enters, a severe figure in black robes, and with an instant quietness descends over the courtroom crowd, and the hum of whispers ceases into an expectant silence. Papers rustle, pens snap, the hum of distant air conditioning sounds deafening, and the first testimony is about to commence. The case is a messy web of allegations. Money squabbles, issues of trust, and accusations that threaten to destroy the carefully constructed facade of a family struggling to coexist under one roof, living multiple lives. Kody stands to face the court, his voice firm but textured with underlying tension. Your Honor, I am here to ask for clarity, to know the truth, and to defend what is left of my family's cohesion. His gaze drifts towards Robin, and she offers a subtle nod. A quiet message that she stands beside him, even as fear simmers under the surface. Christine, though, leans forward, her hands clutching the bench edge, and her voice cuts through the silence, hard and crisp. This is not unity. This is accountability, and someone must answer for the lies that have been spoken. The words hang suspended, a word thunderclap, and stop everyone in their tracks momentarily. The audience shifts in their seats, sensing that something monumental is about to unfold. Janelle exhales slowly, trying to remain composed while Mary's eyes dart between the key players, calculating, considering, waiting for the first crack that might reveal the true nature of the conflict. The first witness is called a financial advisor who has worked closely with Kody for years. He walks up to the stand slowly, each step thought out, conscious that the courtroom is a stage and that each detail is being monitored, dissected, and criticized. The questions start sharp and relentless, raising accounts, transfers, and the enigmatic vanishing of money that have been at the center of this case. Kody's fingers grip the edge of the bench tightly as he listens, his eyes growing narrower, lips compressed into a thin line. Christine leans back fractionally, smile concealed behind a guarded mask, relishing the tension she senses she has contributed to. Robin nibbles her lip, the fear gripping her as Janelle's fingers quiver fractionally, betraying nervous tension she strives to keep hidden. Mary makes notes, the scratch of her pen seeming almost audible in the stunned silence. The advisor talks, his words measured, cautious, unveiling information shocking and damning, putting the court into a state of shock. As the testimony goes on, the family members look at each other with gazes filled with unspoken tension. Kody's face contorts, his thoughts reeling. How could this occur under our noses? He finds himself wondering, a mix of frustration and disbelief tinging every gesture. Robin's eyes well with tears, emotion on the brink of spilling over as she remembers late nights spent attempting to keep the family intact, juggling tenuous relationships and impossible expectations. Christine rolls over, her patience wearing thin, and she leans forward once more, a flash of irritation crossing her face as she mutters under her breath, finally, some accountability. The attorney requests a short recess and the room clears slightly, leaving a nearly suffocating tension in the remaining silence. In the hallway outside, whispers spread through the assembled onlookers, speculation blending with shock, creating an atmosphere that is charged with anticipation. During recess, the private talks occur in hushed voices. Kody goes to Robin, his voice low near a whisper, "Stay calm. We can get through this." Robin acquiesces, though her hands shake, revealing the inner turmoil she's striving to keep under wraps. Christine stands against the wall, arms folded, reliving every detail in her head, plotting her next line, knowing strategy here in the courtroom is as important as truth. Janelle glides softly to the corner, attempting to sort out her emotions caught in the tug of loyalty and self-interest. Mary hangs back, surveying the room, interpreting not only words but body language, looks, and facial expressions. The courtroom itself seeming to resemble a chessboard rather than a forum of justice. The second gavel bang announces the return to the courtroom, and the tension changes in an instant, the burden of expectation crushing heavier than ever. The next witness is the second, a longtime friend of the family who has watched them over the years. She is a very different kind of witness, more personal, disclosing emotional currents that no ledger could reveal. She tells of shattered trust, hushed words in shadowy corridors, and whispered moments of hopelessness that begin to describe a family fighting to keep their internal strife from view. Christine's eyes sting as she listens, gathering up every detail to use in her favor. Robin covers her face for an instant with her hands, heart racing, sensing the exposed vulnerability. Kody squirms uncomfortably, the burden of leadership settling upon him, the need to keep the peace almost more than he can bear. Janelle plays nervously with her bracelet, eyes clouding over with a combination of sorrow and hope, while Mary is calm but attentive, picking up every nuance of reaction. The courtroom is like a pressure cooker, each new revelation heating the situation, ready to set off a confrontation no one can truly predict. Cross-examinations start and the pressure intensifies. Christine sits forward, her voice crisp and clear, slicing through the advisor's words with incisive questions aimed at finding contradictions, uncovering underlying motives. Robin responds softly but firmly, measured words heavy with emotion, protecting the family's dignity as she fights to keep her own anger in check. Kody chimes in periodically, attempting to establish facts, but the air in the room crackles with an electric blend of accusation and defense, power subtly tilting with each response. Janelle sits in silence but watchful, her face revealing the emotional cost of hearing family business discussed publicly. Mary's gaze moves like a predator, analyzing, noting, always calculating the next move. Suddenly, a piece of evidence is presented, a handwritten note, unsigned, discovered hidden in a file cabinet. The judge examines it carefully, then passes it to the attorneys. Murmurs ripple through the courtroom as eyes widen in disbelief. Kody's jaw clenches, Robin's hands tremble, Christine smirks weakly but eyes dart with distrust, and Janelle lets out a soft gasp. Mary leans in, her eyes narrowing, understanding that this tiny slip of paper could hold the secret to unraveling years of lies. The lawyer shows it to the witness, who hesitates before verifying its authenticity. The day drags on, and the depositions stack up, adding depth to the tangled web of connections, deceptions, and secret realities. Kody hears, attempting to keep a grip on authority, but his head is a maelstrom of feeling, frustration, fear, love, and responsibility all colliding. Robin wrestles with bouts of uncertainty. Christine fights surges of retaliatory satisfaction. Janelle reaches out for a tentative hope of restoration of peace, and Mary continuously calculates, waits for the time she can convert information into power. Time crawls, each passing minute elongated, every uttered word amplified in importance. As the court proceedings adjourn for the day, the family streams out, faces ashen, eyes haunted, the burden of the day weighing them down. Whispers haunt the corridors, journalists write frantically, and the tension trails behind them like a shadow they are unable to shake off. Kody lays a reassuring hand on Robin's shoulder. Christine strides quickly, refusing to speak to anyone. Janelle lets out a nervous breath, and Mary hangs back, looking back at the courtroom with a calculating look in her eyes. The day has merely intensified the mystery, heightened the stakes, and made it evident that what comes next might either set them apart forever or compel them to face the truths they've been evading for so long. The courtroom doors open again, and a solemn quiet pervades the room as the second hearing opens, the tension almost palpable in the air as if each heartbeat is magnified 1,000 times. Kody enters first, his stance tense but exhausted, eyes roving the room as if daring anyone to oppose him. And there's a tempest raging beneath the surface of his serene facade, one fueled by years of pent-up resentment, unvoiced questions, and the nagging fear that everything he has struggled to achieve might unravel at any moment. Robin trails along, hands still shaking in spite of efforts to hide her nervousness, lips clamped firmly shut, eyes flicking between the judge, her husband, and the other women, seeking out hints of solidity. Any sign of reassurance that they can possibly negotiate the minefield of allegations in store. Christine steps in with a careful, calculated stride, her face impassive but her eyes flashing with barely contained wrath, and with each look, each shift of her weight, it's obvious she stands ready to strike and defend in equal proportion, using her words like finely honed knives tempered in years of pent-up frustration. Janelle lingers behind, a nearly invisible presence, but the faint tension in her shoulders, the minute shaking of her fingers, betrays the turmoil of emotions she has swallowed down with the gag of polite smiles and silent deference. Mary's eyes are sharp and calculating, noting the smallest details. The twitch of a finger, the involuntary glance, the way the lighting reflects off the courtroom walls. Understanding that in this space, perception can be as lethal as any legal argument. The judge sits, gavel poised, a silent reminder of authority, and the air hangs thick, heavy with anticipation, as if the room itself is holding its breath. The first witness of the day is called, an old family friend who has been watching the interactions and tensions within the home for years. And as she approaches the stand, the room seems to shrink around her, the pressure of eyes bearing down upon her like a palpable weight. She starts to talk, her voice quiet but firm, describing late-night shouting matches, furtive huddles, and subtle manipulations that have long undermined trust in a slow-motion erosion of confidence. Every little detail, she says, sends small waves of shock and unease through the courtroom. Cody's face clenches, a barely visible frown creasing his face as memories he thought he'd buried resurface like unwanted ghosts. Robin swallows hard, fingers tightening on the bench edge, brain reeling over each encounter, each softly spoken word, attempting to merge her love and allegiance with the disturbing reality unfolding before her. Christine leans forward slightly, her lips curling into a faint, almost invisible smirk, enjoying the tension, but her eyes give away a trace of worry as she too starts to grasp just how deep the secrets go. Janelle shifts uncomfortably, her quiet demeanor doing little to hide the storm of emotion brewing beneath the surface, while Mary's gaze is unwavering, analytical, noting inconsistencies, tone shifts, and subtle cues that could be weaponized in the arguments to come. As the witness describes a especially bitter argument some years ago, voices grow higher in recollection, the facts sharp and unprocessed. Neglect, betrayal, favoritism charges, and moments of exposure stripped bare in the most intimate fashion. Kody sits, tapping fingers on wood, a percussive counterpoint to the tempest raging within his head, each new revelation compelling him to acknowledge failures he had wished to keep hidden. Robin's eyes glint, the burden of shame, confusion, and fear bearing down, as she remembers her own culpability and the impossible decisions she has had to make in ensuring peace amongst the wives. Christine's voice grows sharp when she cross-examines, keen and incisive, seeking to anatomize every subtlety, test every memory, and leave no rock unturned. Her passion almost tangible as she leans forward, insisting on the stakes of the narrative that is unfolding. Janelle quietly jots down notes, her heart racing, reflecting on the moments she has witnessed and lived, the struggles she has internalized, while Mary's gaze sharpens further, calculating every possible angle, anticipating how this testimony could shift alliances or open doors to long-held grievances. The attorney demands the reading of a new piece of evidence, a sequence of intimate, private text messages exchanged between two members of the household over several months, suggesting alliances, clandestine meetings, and the widening chasm that no one outside of the house could have conceived of. The judge studies the papers intently, his eyes narrowing as the importance seeps in, and the courtroom is charged with tension in an instant. Kody goes pale by a fraction as he gauges the consequences. Robin's hands shake once more, and she places a tissue over her lips in a reflexive bid to steady herself. Christine leans forward, her eyes alight with vindication, yet even she cannot hide a flicker of anxiety as the messages reveal complexities that may affect her own position in the unfolding drama. Janelle's expression tightens, worry and fear mingling in a silent storm, while Mary's calculating eyes scan the text messages, noting phrasing, timing, and context, aware that these words could tip the scales in unimaginable ways. The cross-examination gets underway, a delicate dance of emotional nuance and legal skill. Christine takes advantage of the moment, voice low and insistent, piercing each word, every insinuation, while Robin responds gently, her voice shaking now and then but firm, calling on reason and emotion as well as she can, her entreaties ringing out from the courtroom in a manner that leaves the crowd gasping. Kody interjects occasionally, seeking clarity, struggling to navigate the labyrinth of accusations and half-truths while maintaining a semblance of control. Janelle's hands clench and unclench as she observes, a silent participant in the drama, and Mary's eyes dart between the key players, absorbing reactions, memorizing expressions, mentally cataloging every advantage. Out of nowhere comes a shocking disclosure. A witness shares pictures that are inconsistent with the previous accounts, pictures that suggest furtive gatherings, whispered words, and intimate moments hidden in secrecy. The courtroom gasps in unison, shock and disbelief thickening the air as Kody's eyes enlarge, a combination of rage and pain crossing his features. Robin's breath catches, the images threatening to undo the emotional armor she has tried so desperately to maintain. Christine leans back slightly, a fleeting smile playing across her lips, though her eyes betray the same tension she has been struggling to control. Janelle presses a hand to her mouth, unable to suppress the emotional reaction, while Mary's analytical gaze sharpens, recognizing the potential leverage these images provide. As the session wears on, feelings are intense. Kody stands up at a particularly charged moment, voice firm with an underlying desperation. We can't be held back by the past entirely, but we do need to deal with it truthfully. Robin weeps openly now, unspoken but obvious, as she fights against the naked emotions that these courtroom showdowns call forth. Christine responds bitterly, her voice near accusatory. Honesty is not sufficient when prevarications have already wrought irreparable harm. Janelle's soft, muffled weeping is barely heard, but the emotional impact is poignantly felt in the space, as Mary stays composed on the outside but inwardly records all the details, watching for the exact moment when leverage can be used. The day comes to a close, but not before one last surprise. A letter, heretofore unknown, makes its way into the proceedings, replete with confessions, admissions, and intimations of affiliations no one could have imagined. The judge reads it, brow furrowed, and the document bears down on all of them. Kody's hands tremble as he takes it. Robin's eyes go wide with shock. Christine stands rigidly, a complex of triumph and guardedness in her expression. Janelle gasps, heart racing, attempting to take in the ramifications, and Mary leans forward, weighing, calculating, comprehending the deep impact of this one revelation. The courtroom weighs heavier than ever as the third session gets underway, an almost palpable tension hanging in the air like storm clouds about to explode, and Kody enters first, shoulders set, jaw clenched, eyes raking the room with a combination of determination and terror, the crush of years of secrets bearing down on him with each step. Robin comes next, fragile but unyielding, her hands clasped nervously before her, lips pursed, eyes flicking toward each of the other wives in search of some clue as to where loyalty really lies. As Christine strides purposefully, each step careful, face an unreadable mask of serenity, though her eyes smolder with barely suppressed rage, and the audience can feel the intensity emanating from her like heat from a burning fire. Janelle lingers near the back, a picture of quiet apprehension, yet her body language betrays the conflict within. The emotional tightrope she has walked for years stretched dangerously thin, while Mary's calculating gaze sweeps the room, noting every small gesture, every subtle twitch, as though capturing evidence not just in words but in motion. And the judge's gavel finally falls, slicing through the anticipation like a knife, signaling the beginning of what promises to be the most volatile session yet. The first witness is summoned. An old family confidant, one who knows the inner dynamics better than anyone outside of the home, and she edges onto the stand cautiously, knowing that her testimony will hold enormous significance. She starts to testify, speaking of secret gatherings, whispered disagreements, and behind-the-scenes partnerships, each piece of information delivered guardedly yet powerfully, each syllable bringing depth and distrust to the already tense air. Kody sits tight, fingers clenched around the edge of the bench, all his muscles rigid as memories he had hoped for would stay buried, come back unbidden, bringing with them feelings he cannot master. Robin's eyes well up with tears as she listens to the tales unfold, emotions crashing, love, fear, betrayal, and guilt swirling in a tempest she cannot subdue. Christine leans forward, voice calm but sharp, her eyes narrowing as she processes the implications, mentally cataloging each statement for future confrontation. Janelle shifts in her seat, trying to remain composed, but the faint tremor in her hands betrays the inner turmoil, and Mary's gaze is razor sharp, capturing every nuance, every inconsistency, every hint of deception. As the witness goes on, the courtroom becomes more cramped, the air sweltering, the pressure almost suffocating, and she lets loose a bombshell. A secret meeting months ago, one no member of the family had anticipated coming to light, in which clandestine talks were held regarding agendas, manipulation, and how to manipulate things within the household. The room responds in instant shock. Kody's eyes bulge, jaw taut as he struggles to comprehend the implications, whereas Robin swallows hard, her heart pounding as if the ground beneath her had been racked into violent motion. Christine's lips curve into a small, wry smile, but the flutter in her eyes shows that even she is disturbed by the gravity of the testimony. Janelle closes her eyes for a second, attempting to calm her racing thoughts as Mary leans forward, taking in the information, aware that this discovery might change everything she believed she knew about the inner workings of the family. The lawyer requests the presentation of additional evidence, an audio tape, secretly recorded, which appears to validate some of the charges and specifically contradicts what has been said in the session so far. The judge leans forward, intent, the gravity of the moment mirrored in the lines on his brow as the courtroom draws its collective breath, gazes locked on the witness, listening as the recording plays. Kody tenses, shoulders tightening as the voice on the tape speaks words that cut like a lash, words that reveal betrayals he had thought lay long in the past. Robin lays a hand on her chest, swallowing a sob as she registers the raw agony of revealed truths and shattered trust. Christine half reclines, permitting the lapse of a moment's satisfaction, but her eyes give away concern, knowing that the recording provides variables capable of undermining her footing. Janelle shifts in her seat, heart pounding, while Mary's expression remains unreadable, but her mind races, noting every inflection, every hesitation, every pause in the dialogue, understanding the potential leverage this recording provides. Cross-examinations begin, and the atmosphere is electric. Christine's tone is cutting, precise, designed to expose inconsistencies and undermine defenses. Each question aimed to destabilize and provoke admissions. Robin pushes back with careful vulnerability, her voice trembling but resolute, appealing as much to feeling as to fact. Her words striking deep, erecting a tenuous balance between defense and passionate entreaty. Kody crosses in carefully, asking for clarification, attempting to maintain control, but the emotional undertow is nigh on suffocating, likely to carry him off in the turmoil. Janelle's quiet observation continues, her emotions flickering across her features, barely perceptible but powerful, while Mary's mind works relentlessly, plotting potential moves, anticipating reactions, calculating alliances. Suddenly, a shocking confession emerges from an unexpected source. A witness previously thought neutral steps forward and admits to participating in secretive manipulations, divulging information that upends assumptions and shifts allegiances. The courtroom gasps in unison, the gravity of this revelation sending a ripple of shock, outrage, and terror. Kody stands stock still, eyes wide with incredulity, trying to grasp the enormity of the betrayal, while Robin's hand covers her mouth, tears shimmering on the brink of spilling. Christine leans forward with a battle-hardened mixture of victory and calculation gleaming in her eyes, grasping that this admission might underpin her approach, but at the same time complicate her stance. Janelle's expression contorts in silent pain, the emotional impact hitting her harder than she anticipated, and Mary's eyes sharpen further, seizing upon this new variable, already considering how it can be exploited or defended against. The judge pauses, allowing the weight of the confession to sink in, then directs attention to the attorneys for further questioning. Kody rises, voice firm but tinged with desperation. We cannot allow deception to continue destroying what we've built. The truth must guide us now. Robin's trembling hands tighten into fists, a mix of fear, anger, and determination fueling her words as she tries to interject, but the emotional storm threatens to overwhelm her. Christine fires back hard, every word chosen, meant to slice and reveal, her calculating mind working overtime, while Janelle edges forward, eyes shining, the emotional strain of the battle written unmistakably on her face. Mary keeps herself outwardly calm, but intensity behind her eyes is palpable, mentally weighing every potential outcome and consequence. The day goes on with witness after witness, each level stripping away more of the family's secrets. Kody is asked tough questions about decisions made in the past. Robin tries to get her love to balance against the acts of betrayal that are playing out. Christine presses hard to uncover every inconsistency. Janelle's unspoken pain echoes like a stifled scream, and Mary scrupulously documents everything for use later. The courtroom is a theater. The atmosphere charged with foreboding, the feelings raw, and all the players are tense, aware that one miscalculation could drastically change the power equation. The final witness is summoned as the proceedings near their end, a estranged relative whose evidence holds the promise of shedding new light on the simmering antagonisms. Their voice trembles slightly, but their words carry weight, revealing hidden alliances, unexpected betrayals, and a long-held secret that threatens to redefine the dynamics of the family forever. Kody's eyes widen in disbelief. Robin's hands shake as she absorbs the painful truth. Christine leans forward, her lips pressed in a thin line. Janelle lets out a quiet gasp, and Mary's eyes narrow, recognizing immediately the strategic implications. The courtroom is near suffocating when session 4 commences, the air charged with anticipation and latent tension, and Kody leads the way in. Steps deliberate, shoulders set, but his eyes betraying the weariness of a man burdened with a weight far greater than anyone outside can realize. Robin comes next, hands gripped tightly between them, the slight shake in her fingers betraying the whirlpool of anxiety and terror she has maintained since the first session, and yet her body holds a quiet determination, a faltering hope that somehow the truth will win out. Christine strides in with deliberate precision, her gaze sharp and calculating, every movement radiating control, a tension beneath the surface that warns everyone she is ready to strike at the first hint of weakness, while Janelle lingers near the back, hands pressed together, shoulders tense, the quiet strength masking the emotional whirlwind within her, and Mary's eyes sweep the room with razor-sharp precision, noting every twitch, every sidelong glance, every heartbeat, as if reading the invisible currents of power and fear that flow through the courtroom. The gavel of the judge comes down, shattering the silence like a clap of thunder, and the proceedings start with a promise of surprises that none of the family or the viewers could possibly anticipate. The first witness is summoned, a person closely privy to the dynamics of the household, his presence sending waves of tension through the room. As they step into the stand, the stillness of expectation becomes almost unendurable, and their testimony starts to pull apart the meticulously cultivated illusions layer by layer. Clandestine meetings, threatened insults, and minor deceptions that piled up over the course of years, creating a tension so heavy it is tangible. Kody hears, jaws clenched, eyes flashing with a combination of incredulity and anger, as he fights to assimilate these disclosures into the united picture he has been attempting to preserve. Robin's hands shake as she clutches the end of the bench, eyes frantically darting from husband to witness, attempting to make sense of both the emotional and logistical implications of what is being revealed. Christine inclines forward, voice low but incisive, each word crafted to pierce and reveal, relishing the subtle quiver in Kody's demeanor as she conceals her own fear of how these disclosures could involve her. Janelle's body shifts slightly, tension radiating from her in waves as she quietly observes, while Mary's analytical gaze never wavers, taking mental note of every detail, every hesitation, every nuance of tone, knowing that strategy in this session could tip the balance in unexpected ways. As the testimony goes on, the witness lets a bombshell drop, proof of secret meetings, secret alliances, and discussion which erodes trust, not only between Kody and the wives, but among the wives themselves, a portrait of deceit and betrayal that leaves everyone in the room shocked. Kody's face sets, a mixture of anger, hurt, and fear crossing his face as the realities of these alliances strike him like a body blow. Robin's lips quiver, the attempt to stay calm failing as tears sting at the edges of her eyes, her brain whirling to comprehend how loyalty had been broken and whether it might be mended. Christine's eyes sparkle with triumph, but her tapping hand against the bench is a nervous gesture as she too takes in the scope of the revelations, understanding both the possibilities and risks newly laid bare. Janelle presses her hands to her lap, a small shudder running through her as she absorbs the betrayal she had only suspected, while Mary's expression remains outwardly calm. Yet behind her calculating eyes, strategy and anticipation churn relentlessly. The next piece of evidence is introduced. A series of letters, previously hidden, exposing secret plans and personal grievances, each one more incriminating than the last. The judge reads them through, his eyebrows furrowed, the gravity of their content bearing down on the room as a palpable weight, and the courtroom is awed into silence by the seriousness of these disclosures. Kody's fists clench round the bench, his thoughts a maelstrom of questions, of fears, of plans, as he wrestles to come to terms with the love he feels and the betrayal that is revealed. Robin breathes shakily, tears on the verge of falling, with every letter revealing a betrayal long suspected but never wished to be faced openly. Christine's eyes close, a combination of triumph and unease dancing in their face, realizing that the letters complicate her stance as much as they reinforce it. Janelle's lips clamp together, struggling to stem the emotions welling up as Mary sits forward slightly, drinking in the words, registering patterns, timing, and motives, mentally filing away each detail for the yet future battles. The cross-examination proper starts, and the courtroom is a battlefield of words, emotion, and tactics. Christine's voice is exact, sharp, unyielding, calculated to explore weaknesses, inconsistencies, and ulterior motives, each question crafted to destabilize defenses. Robin responds quietly but intensely, her argument rich in truth and emotion, appealing as much to the sense of justice and fair play that unites the court as to the mere facts. Kody interrupts now and then, voice firm but tense, demanding clarity and trying to steer the denial-grounded minefield of accusations, while the silent presence of Janelle betrays the inner conflict of one torn between loyalty and survival. Mary's gaze is calculating, capturing subtle reactions, fleeting expressions, and body language that betray the unspoken truth simmering beneath the surface. Suddenly, a new witness is called, someone whose testimony promises to redefine the stakes entirely, a long-trusted friend who reveals an alliance with one of the wives, sharing information that directly contradicts previous statements and throws assumptions into chaos. Kody freezes, eyes bulging as the betrayal hits him on a basic level, and Robin gasps softly, hands shooting to her face as hurt and shock wash over her. Christine glides forward, voice even, but eyes blazing with satisfaction and wariness, understanding that this testimony tilts the battlefield in volatile patterns. Janelle exhales shakily, the emotional weight almost unbearable, while Mary's eyes narrow, calculating how to leverage this revelation to her advantage in the sessions yet to come. The judge pauses, acknowledging the gravity of the situation, and the attorneys prepare for a flurry of questions designed to dissect, analyze, and confront the revelations head-on. Kody stands up, voice resolute but trembling with desperation. We need to face reality, no matter how hard or everything around us will come crashing down. Robin's voice shakes, words dripping with emotion, begging for sympathy and truth in the midst of chaos. Christine retorts viciously, her voice slicing, pointing out inconsistencies and escalating the tension, as Janelle sits in mute tension, drinking in each word, each inflection, sensing the sting of betrayal in the pit of her stomach. Mary sits forward, externally calm, but in her mind racing through options, expecting responses, positioning herself for the exact moment she can take advantage of the developing drama. As the session progresses, additional evidence is presented, photographs, text exchanges, and recordings that reveal clandestine meetings, emotional confrontations, and hidden resentments that no one could have anticipated. The courtroom reacts instantly. Kody's jaw tightens, eyes narrowing, Robin swallows hard, tears rolling down her cheeks. Christine's lips press together as she calculates the strategic implications. Janelle's hands tremble slightly, and Mary's gaze sharpens, processing every detail with relentless focus. The emotional tension builds to a crescendo, each new revelation landing like a hammer blow, and the family starts to unravel under pressure from truths long hidden. The day is running out, but only after one last bombshell. A handwritten confession, kept hidden until now, emerges, accusing several family members of crimes of dishonesty, concealment, and deceit. The courtroom collectively exhales in shock, the weight of the confession pressing down with palpable force. Kody's hands shake as he receives it, Robin's eyes widen in disbelief. Christine leans forward slightly, expression a mixture of triumph and calculation. Janelle's lips part as she struggles to comprehend the magnitude, and Mary's eyes gleam with strategic intent, knowing this revelation could shift everything. Session 5 is opened under a dense, almost suffocating silence, the kind that makes every step, every breath, every rustle of paper seem magnified, and Kody comes in first, shoulders set but his face worn with fatigue, a man who is weighted down by unspoken realities and the very real danger that the fabric of his family will be fundamentally torn apart. Robin follows slowly, hands folded tightly in front of her, eyes flicking nervously between the other wives and the judge, a precise balance of hope and terror threatening every slight move. While Christine walks in deliberately, back stiff, face a mask of contained rage, eyes blazing with the calculated fury of one prepared to take advantage of every perceived weakness, and each and every person in the courtroom can feel tension exuding from her like waves of heat from a furnace. Janelle lingers near the back, quiet but tense, her body language betraying the internal conflict of loyalty, love, and self-preservation, while Mary's sharp gaze sweeps the room, absorbing every micro-expression, every twitch of emotion, every subtle cue that could be used to turn the tide in her favor, as the judge's gavel falls, slicing through the silence like a blade and signaling the start of what promises to be the most explosive session yet. The first witness is summoned, one who has witnessed the family dynamics play out over the years, familiar with the cracks that have unobtrusively developed beneath the surface. And as she steps up to the stand, the tension in the room changes, the expectation nearly strangling. Her testimony is reluctant at first, speaking of hushed words, backroom manipulations, and clandestine alliances, each disclosure sending ripples through the dynamic of the room. Kody sits jaw clamped, hands holding onto the bench's edge, eyes squinting as he attempts to connect the story being told with the man he thinks he is and with the family he thought he knew. Robin's lips are clamped tightly together, a shudder revealing the failure of her effort at control, her heart pounding as she fights to take in the emotional content while Christine hunches forward, speaking low but cutting, each word calculated to incite, to disentangle, to question, and yet even she cannot hide the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes as she realizes the depth of what is being revealed. Janelle shifts slightly, silent but emotionally raw, her quiet composure cracking under the weight of betrayal and fear, and Mary's calculating gaze never wavers, mentally cataloging each detail, each pause, each nuance, knowing that in this session, power and leverage can shift with a single word. As the witness goes on, a shocking discovery is revealed, a secret rendezvous between two members of the family arranged months in advance, intended to tamper with results and dictate choices in secret without others knowing. The courtroom responds immediately. Kody's face contorts, a blend of shock, rage, and pain coursing through his face, and Robin's hands slap across her mouth, eyes wide with shock and terror. Christine reclines a little, lips twisting into a thin, assessing smile, but her eyes give away the same shock, realizing that this news might change her ground as much as it might support it. Janelle pushes hands to knees, attempting to stabilize herself, the silent shudder of her body belied by the emotional weight as Mary sits forward slightly, analytical and perceptive, taking in each nuance, every pause, every hidden hint that can be used as ammunition in the courtroom battle unfolding before them. The attorneys bring with them a new piece of testimony, a series of audio recordings preserving conversations long thought to have been private. Conversations filled with emotion, strategy, and manipulation, each one more incriminating than the last. The judge pores over them intently, an eyebrow raised at the implications, the courtroom collectively holding its breath as the first tape plays, the voices shaking, the tones biting, the laughter with a hint of malice, and the naked humanity of it all laid bare for everyone to hear. Kody's hands shake involuntarily, a maelstrom of feeling flashing across his face as the words affirm deeply held fears. Robin swallows hard, water welling in her eyes, fighting to hold together as the tapes expose the cracks in her family's cohesion. Christine leans forward, eyes aglow with tension and satisfaction, figuring out how each word can be manipulated, while Janelle's chest constricts, a silent gasp escaping as the realities hit her, and Mary keeps her composure externally, her mind racing internally, linking dots, waiting for a reaction, considering strategies. Cross-examinations start, and the courtroom becomes a battlefield where words sting as much as any sword. Christine's tone is exact, biting, relentless, with the intention of destabilizing, inciting, and laying bare, contrasted with measured vulnerability, quavering voice but firm, appealing to emotion and truth at the same time, cutting intensely throughout the room. Kody interrupts intermittently, strong yet strained voice, trying to impose control and authority over events, while tension emanates from Janelle's quiet presence, watching, learning, silently absorbing the scale of the developing events. Mary's eyes shift constantly, calculating, anticipating, recognizing that the next few moments could pivot the session entirely, the balance of power teetering on a knife's edge. Then, an unexpected witness steps forward, someone who had been absent from previous proceedings, bringing a revelation that rocks the room, a secret alliance between two family members that contradicts prior statements and exposes hidden motives, reshaping assumptions and trust alike. Kody's face goes white, a burst of pain and anger crossing his face as he processes the implications. As Robin gasps, hands shaking as she covers her mouth, reeling at the betrayal laid bare before her. Christine reaches forward, voice steady but eyes shining with calculating expectation, knowing that this admission flips everything and needs to be adapted straight away to retain control. Janelle's expression contorts with grief and disbelief, the weight of the revelation hitting harder than she anticipated, while Mary's analytical mind races, noting the potential leverage and ramifications, calculating the consequences of each revelation on alliances and outcomes. The judge pauses, acknowledging the gravity of the moment, and the attorneys prepare for a meticulous line of questioning designed to dissect the newly revealed truths. Kody stands up, voice unshakable but laced with desperation. The truth needs to be confronted, however hard, because then we might stand a chance of surviving this. Robin speaks in a tremulous voice, words thick with emotion and imploring understanding and sincerity in the midst of mayhem, while Kristen sharply retorts, every syllable designed to reveal contradictions, pointing to the depth of the deception revealed. Janelle leans forward, silent but emotionally devastated, and Mary's composed exterior masks the rapid calculations running through her mind, anticipating every possible consequence and advantage. Additional evidence is presented. Text messages, emails, and photographs that depict meetings, confrontations, and subtle manipulations, painting a complex picture of loyalty, deceit, and strategic maneuvering that none of the family or the audience could have anticipated. Kody tenses, eyes folding together, heart pounding as the reality sets in. Robin's breath is caught in her throat, weeping as she realizes the extent of the betrayal. Christine reclines, eyes folded, mind working overtime with possibilities. Janelle clutches her hands to her face, shaking, trying to take it all in. And Mary watches with a keen eye, seeing every detail, remembering the minute signals that might tip the power balance once more. In conclusion, a typed-out confession appears, long hidden, that accuses several family members of dishonesty, concealment, and manipulation, each sentence loaded with fatal weight. The courtroom collectively reacts. Kody's hands shake, a storm of emotion flashing across his face. Robin's eyes widen in disbelief, tears flowing freely. Christine's expression hardens, a mix of triumph and calculation. Janelle gasps, a hand to her chest, struggling to comprehend the enormity. Mary's eyes gleam with strategic anticipation, understanding the full ramifications of this revelation. The courtroom opens for session 6 under a palpable, heavy tension, the air charged with every secret, every resentment, and every fear that has smoldered for years. And Kody enters first, shoulders squared, face set taut with the weariness of a man compelled to fight betrayals that cut deeper than any outsider can begin to comprehend. Robin enters hesitantly, hands clenched tightly, eyes nervously shifting between the other wives, judge, and lawyers, heart thudding as she prepares herself for the revelations that she knows will strike most deeply today, while Christine enters with careful deliberation, each step controlled, a hidden spark of fire in her eyes foreshadowing both strategy and seething rage. Calm exterior barely containing the tempest she carries within. Janelle lingers near the back, posture rigid yet fragile, tension etched into every movement, fingers tapping lightly against the bench as she struggles to suppress the fear and grief building inside. and Mary's gaze sweeps the room with lethal precision, noting every twitch, every hesitant glance, every reaction that might reveal hidden truths or open avenues of leverage as the judge's gavel falls sharply, cutting through the thick silence, signaling the start of what promises to be the most emotionally charged session yet. The first witness approaches the stand, a figure whose insights carry weight because they have seen the family's dynamics unfold behind closed doors. And the moment they speak, the room collectively shifts, drawn into the web of secrets, lies, and unspoken tensions. Their evidence starts hesitantly, but soon intensifies, relating episodes of manipulation, nuanced betrayals, and furtive chats which have eroded trust, loyalty, and emotional connections in the years they knew the victims. Kody sits there, fists clenched in the leg of the bench, his eyes narrowing as a tsunami of disbelief, fury, and heartbreak rages through his head. All past fights, clandestine meetings, and tentative coalitions now vividly branded for him in a way he can no longer escape. Robin's hands are shaking a bit, lips clamped together, her mind racing as she struggles to balance her love and devotion against the hurt realities unfolding, while Christine leans forward, her voice low and incisive, cutting into the story with sharp questions aimed at bringing out every contradiction, every ulterior motive, every fissure in Kody's demeanor. Janelle presses her palms into her lap, attempting to maintain her composure as tears prick her eyes, her quiet suffering palpable to anyone watching, and Mary's calculating gaze never wavers, mentally cataloging every detail, analyzing each inflection, each hesitation, and each reaction for strategic advantage. As the witness tells one of the more explosive stories of years ago, the courtroom seems to be on its collective breath, a fight with harsh words, sobs, and subtle threats, an evening which permanently shifted the power dynamic between the family members. Kody's face contorts, eyes flashing with both rage and sorrow as he relives the memories with each passing word. Robin swallows hard, a shiver running down her spine as she remembers her own part in the action, feeling guilt, regret, and fear all swirling together. Christine inches forward, voice flat but her eyes burning with the exhilaration of domination, her mind working in overtime to use the emerging secrets for her gain, while Janelle softly shakes her head, lips pursed into a determined line, silently carrying the emotional burden of past and current conflicts. Mary's eyes narrow, tracking every nuance, every subtle movement, every unspoken tension, already considering how the revelation can shift alliances and strategies in the sessions to come. The lawyers introduce new evidence, a collection of video recordings, emails, and photographs that corroborate the witness's testimony, each piece more damning than the last, painting a vivid picture of secrecy, manipulation, and emotional manipulation within the family. The judge scrutinizes them intently, frowning at the implications, while the courtroom as a whole takes in the seriousness of the situation, the air charged with tension and incredulity. Kody goes stiff, jaw clenched, fists curled as the reality of the evidence sinks in, personal and family repercussions settling heavily. Robin's eyes brim with tears, lips clenched in effort to stay calm, as Christine sits back, face stern, enjoying the strategic leverage but realizing the disclosures make the precarious balance she has attempted to maintain more complex. Janelle slaps her hands against her chest, breathing hard, attempting to take in the breathtaking force of the evidence, and Mary is outwardly calm, eyes narrowed and calculating, cataloging all words, glances, and responses in her mind for later use. Cross-examinations start, and the courtroom becomes a stage of verbal sparring at its highest stakes. Christine asks pin-sharp, accurate, and relentless questions to destabilize Kody and Robin and to bring out inconsistencies in the testimony of the witness, while Robin responds with affective sincerity, voice shaking but resolute, appealing to truth and to justice, and rendering it impossible for anyone sitting in the courtroom to fail to appreciate her sincerity. Kody steps in tactfully, voice stern but strained, trying to alleviate misunderstandings and protect the family from the brunt of accusations, while the subdued presence of Janelle exudes tension, eyes shining with emotion, echoing the turmoil inside that she is struggling to keep at bay. Mary's calculating eyes flick between participants, noting micro-expressions, tone shifts, and body language that could be used to gain an upper hand, while the courtroom feels electrified, each word carrying weight, each pause pregnant with unspoken possibility. Suddenly, an unexpected twist arises. A previously silent family member steps forward, revealing a long-concealed secret that contradicts earlier testimony and upends previously held assumptions about loyalty, trust, and intentions. Kody stiffens, his eyes wide, a glance of rage and disappointment flashing across his face as the betrayal pierces deep. Robin inhales softly, her hand at her mouth as the horror of the discovery threatens to break her composure, while Christine leans forward, her eyes snapping, recognizing the admission would tip the scales of power once more, and she would be forced to adjust her plan on the fly. Janelle's chest tightens, a quiet shiver running through her as she struggles to absorb the emotional impact, and Mary's eyes narrow, calculating the implications, recognizing an opportunity that could give her significant leverage in the courtroom war. The judge pauses, allowing the tension to settle momentarily, then directs attention to the attorneys for further questioning. Kody stands, voice controlled but laced with desperation. We have to face the truth no matter how ugly or risk losing all we've struggled to keep. Robin's voice shakes as she speaks, words heavy with emotion, begging for comprehension, honesty, and the opportunity to mend in the midst of confusion, while Christine refutes harshly, tone measured to expose contradictions and hold others responsible. Janelle sits forward, quiet but obviously shaken, her eyes filled with unshed tears, and Mary is outwardly serene, but inwardly she balances the revelations, expects answers, and maps her next move of strategy. More evidence surfaces, handwritten letters, taped telephone calls, and personal notes, each revealing veiled motives, secret agendas, and subtle manipulations, and piecing together a mosaic of betrayal and deception that no one could have envisioned. Kody stiffens, jaw tight, fists clenched as he absorbs the implications. Robin's hands tremble and her breath catches as she confronts the painful reality of the secrets laid bare. Christine's eyes narrow with both satisfaction and caution. Janelle presses her hands together, trembling with the emotional weight of the revelations, and Mary's sharp gaze misses nothing, capturing every nuance and potential leverage point for later use. As the session is coming to a close, one last bombshell emerges. A secret document that holds confessions and admissions of the various family members engaging in deception, secrecy, and betrayal, which weigh heavily on the space and send shockwaves throughout. Kody's hands shake as he receives it, eyes wide in disbelief. Robin's tears flow freely, chest heaving with emotion. Christine leans forward, expression taut with calculation. Janelle gasps softly, struggling to process the enormity of the revelation, and Mary's eyes gleam with strategic anticipation, understanding the profound consequences. Session 7 opens like a storm about to break, the courtroom thick with tension, every eye scanning the room, every heartbeat amplified, and Kody enters first, steps deliberate, shoulders tense, face tight with exhaustion and anticipation. A man aware that the revelations today could either mend or irreparably fracture the family he has struggled to hold together. Robin follows, moving cautiously, hands pressed together, lips trembling slightly, eyes flicking from the judge to Kody to Christine, each glance reflecting fear, hope, and the emotional weight she carries, while Christine strides in, posture rigid, eyes blazing with controlled fury, each step radiating precision and calculated intent. The energy around her sharp as a knife, and Janelle lingers near the back, a quiet storm of emotion barely contained, her body rigid yet fragile, fingers tapping lightly against the bench as she struggles to absorb the weight of anticipation, and Mary's eyes sweep the room with sharp acuity, noting every subtle gesture, every micro-expression, every flutter of emotion, ready to seize on even the smallest advantage as the judge's gavel falls, slicing through the tense silence and signaling the start of what is perhaps the most explosive and emotionally charged session yet. The first witness comes to the stand, a person closely acquainted with the inner dynamics of the family, one whose insinuating gaze has silently documented years of buried tensions, secret coalitions, and treachery. And when they start talking, the courtroom leans in as a whole, captivated by the tapestry of secrecy and deception being unraveled. Their evidence starts tentatively, but soon builds, speaking of confrontations, stealthy whispers, and episodes of emotional blackmail that have quietly constructed the family atmosphere. Every word a hammer blow, every disclosure a shockwave radiating from the speaker. Kody holds his breath, clenched fists gripping the edge of the bench, a stricken jaw, eyes narrowing as memories come flooding back, every one an agonized reminder of gone wrong choices, of betrayals, of tenuous allegiances. As Robin's hands shake, eyes welling up, heart thudding with both terror and grief as the story validates suspicions she had long sought to bury. Christine leans forward, voice calm but sharp, each question an interjection crafted to reveal weakness, take advantage of inconsistencies, and convert each piece of information to her tactical benefit. Though even she can't completely suppress the flash of fear in her eyes as she comprehends the magnitude of the truths being revealed. Janelle presses her palms together, trying to maintain composure as silent tears prick her eyes, while Mary's analytical gaze pierces the room, noting every nuance, every hesitation, every unspoken thought, already calculating how this session could tip the balance of power in ways no one anticipates. As the witness describes a particularly dramatic encounter from years ago, with angry words, tears, and veiled threats, the courtroom seems to close in, the atmosphere heavy with tension and foreboding, and every actor in it is vividly aware that these are not merely stories. These are weapons, proof, and emotional grenades all rolled into one. Kody's face clenches, eyes flashing with fury, sadness, and incredulity as he recalls the events of the night in vivid color, and Robin gags hard, heart pounding, cringing under the burden of her own decisions and complicity in the drama unfolding before her. Christine leans forward, whisper low but cutthroat, questions sharp, probing, relentless, trying to find inconsistencies and weaknesses, while Janelle silently shakes her head, chest constricted, lips set in a thin line, silently struggling with the emotional weight of 40 years of secrets revealed in a single room. Mary's eyes narrow, her mind working relentlessly, connecting patterns, motives, and outcomes, noting every subtle reaction and every micro-expression that could be used as leverage in the coming arguments. The lawyers present a new set of evidence, audio recordings capturing private conversations that hint at manipulation, alliances, and betrayal, each recording more damning than the last, layering tension upon tension and exposing cracks in the family's unity. The judge considers the contents diligently, furrowed brows as the room sits collectively in respect of the severity of the scenario, as Kody tightens, jaws set, shaking hands as the recordings verify fears he had long suspected. Robin's eyes well up with tears, lips clamped together in an effort to fight back, while Christine's face hardens, a blend of clever pleasure and understated fear as she becomes aware that the recordings make both her position and her plan more difficult. Janelle plants her hands on her knees, silently shaking as the weight of the evidence permeates, while Mary edges forward, eyes darting from Kody to Christine to Robin, logging each response, dissecting each nuance for future gain. Cross-examinations burst like a pent-up explosion of words and emotion. Christine's questions are sharp, calculated, and piercing, meant to disrupt and reveal, countered by Robin with affective openness, voice shaking but steady, appealing to fact and to emotion, leaving no one unmoved. Kody jumps in with measured control, trying to clarify, defend, and steer through the danger area of accusation, and Janelle's unobtrusive presence emits tension, each small movement a mirror of her inner conflict between loyalty and self-survival. Mary's calculating eyes miss nothing, observing micro-expressions, tone shifts, and body language, anticipating how each move could affect the unfolding battle. Then, a previously silent family member is called to testify, bringing with them a revelation that changes everything. A long-concealed secret about alliances, manipulations, and hidden motives that challenges the very narrative everyone has been operating under. Kody stiffens, a tempest of rage, pain, and shock crossing his face as Robin gasps, hands shooting to her mouth, reeling from the betrayal. Christine leans forward, eyes glinting with strategic intent, calculating instantly how to turn the confession to her advantage, while Janelle's chest tightens, a small shudder running through her as she absorbs the emotional blow, and Mary's eyes narrow, mind racing to understand the implications. weighing opportunities and risks in a heartbeat. The judge gives a brief reprieve, allowing the weight of the testimony to sink in, then instructs lawyers to continue with careful questioning. Kody stands, voice resolute but tinged with desperation. We cannot go on without confronting the whole truth, however difficult it is, and Robin's voice shakes as she speaks, full of emotional honesty and a request for truth, compassion, and reconciliation. Christine counters sharply, every word calculated, aiming to expose inconsistencies and assert control over the narrative, while Janelle leans forward, silent but emotionally raw, absorbing every detail, and Mary's composed exterior masks the storm of analysis running through her mind, every revelation weighed, every reaction considered, every opportunity noted. Additional proof is presented, scribbled notes, personal messages, and photographs capturing clandestine meetings, covert chats, and tear-filled confrontations no one thought they would ever get to witness. Kody stiffens, fists clenched, jaw tight, struggling to process the cumulative weight of the evidence. Robin's hands tremble as she presses them to her mouth, fighting tears and shock. Christine leans slightly forward, eyes sharp, mind racing to evaluate how this new evidence impacts her position. Janelle's body shudders slightly, overwhelmed by the emotional impact, and Mary's gaze sharpens, cataloging every detail, evaluating both leverage and threat. As the session reaches its conclusion, the last testimony comes. A previously unreleased letter containing confessions, admissions, and information regarding clandestine tactics, alliances, and betrayals that involve several family members. The courtroom responds immediately. Kody's hands shake as he reads the letter, eyes widening in shock and grief, while Robin quietly weeps, chest heaving, trying to understand the extent of the deception. Christine's expression hardens, lips pressed together, mind calculating immediate consequences, while Janelle gasps softly, eyes glistening, overwhelmed by the truth, and Mary's gaze gleams with the anticipation of leverage and strategy, every implication running through her mind like clockwork. Session 8 opens under a stormy burden of expectation, the courtroom almost quivering with the force of emotions held on the edge, and Kody first in, shoulders set but eyes darkened with the weariness of the previous sessions. The realization that any discovery today might heal or forever destroy his family weighing down like an impossible load. Robin following tentatively, steps measured, hands clenched tightly together, eyes darting frantically from Kody to the judge to Christine. Hope and fear and heartbreak etched on every quiver, while Christine comes in with calculated tread, posture stiff, eyes burning with controlled anger and calculated purpose, exuding tension that slashes the air like a blade. Janelle lingers near the back, a quiet storm of emotion barely restrained, fingers tapping lightly as she struggles to hold composure amidst the escalating revelations, and Mary's sharp gaze sweeps the room, absorbing every subtle gesture, micro-expression, and glance, her mind calculating leverage and strategy with surgical precision as the judge's gavel falls, slicing through the silence and signaling the start of what promises to be the most explosive, high-stakes, and emotionally charged session of all. The first witness appears on the stand, an old family friend whose testimony is credible because they have witnessed the secret cracks in the family over years, and the courtroom leans in together as they speak of furtive talk, secret alliances, and emotional manipulation that has structured the domestic dynamics in ways no one outside the house could ever have dreamed. Kody listens, clenched jaw, fists wrapped around the railing of the bench, a whirlwind of rage, sorrow, and incredulity flashing across his features as memories rise in bright, searing color. Robin lays a hand on her chest, eyes brimming, lips quivering as the weight of emotions almost overcomes her, while Christine advances, voice husky, crisp, cutting into testimony with questions intent on uncovering inconsistencies and flaws, even as concern flickers across her features, knowing that some things that come out might be used against her. Janelle's hands tremble slightly in her lap, lips pressed together, silently absorbing the pain and betrayal, and Mary's eyes narrow, mind racing to exploit the unfolding drama strategically, every pause, glance, and hesitation cataloged for advantage. As the witness testifies to a clandestine meeting months earlier, the courtroom is silent in unison. Two family members had colluded behind the scenes, manipulating situations and relationships, leaving a trail of insidious but crippling betrayals. Kody's face contorts, eyes flashing with a combination of shock, pain, and rage, as Robin's chest heaves and falls in sharp, jerking motions, her tears welling up as she tries to take in the news. Christine sits back in her chair, lips drawn into a thin line, eyes working the opportunity given by the information revealed, and Janelle sets her hands together, hardly able to process the emotional damage of the revealed deception. And Mary sits forward, one hand, white-knuckled, gripping the armrest, eyes piercing with the instant understanding of leverage and risk involved. An otherwise quiet family member emerges to take the stand, revealing a shocking confession that negates earlier testimony and reveals concealed motives, affiliations, and deception. The courtroom gasps as one. Kody's eyes widen, his jaw clenching in shock and outrage at the betrayal evident on his face. Robin covers her mouth, gasping softly, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the revelation, while Christine leans forward, eyes glinting with strategic anticipation, aware that this confession could alter the balance of power dramatically. Janelle's chest tightens, a quiet shiver running through her body, and Mary's eyes gleam with strategic calculation, already imagining how this revelation can shift future moves. The judge grants a delay, allowing the gravity of the confession to sink in, before instructing the lawyers to go ahead with aggressive cross-examination. Kody stands up, voice firm but with overtones of desperation. We need to face the truth, however uncomfortable, or risk losing what we love most, while Robin's is shaking with a sense of urgency, begging for truth, forgiveness, and comprehension. Christine counters with precision, highlighting inconsistencies and potential vulnerabilities, while Janelle leans forward, silent yet emotionally raw, absorbing each word as if it were a physical blow, and Mary's gaze remains calculating, noting every inflection and expression for strategic advantage. New evidence is presented, handwritten notes, private messages, and photographs that corroborate the testimonies, exposing layers of manipulation, secret alliances, and emotional deception that had been hidden for years. Kody's fists clench, jaw tight, eyes wide, the weight of evidence pressing down, while Robin's hands tremble as she struggles to maintain composure, chest heaving with emotion. Christine's eyes narrow, calculating how to wield the evidence strategically, while Janelle presses her palms together, trembling under the cumulative impact of the revelations, and Mary's mind races, analyzing every subtle detail for advantage. Cross-examinations heighten, voices growing loud, tempers boiling, each side on high alert. Christine asks razor-sharp questions that cut and cut and cut, intended to goad and unsettle, and Robin responds with calculated openness, voice shaking but firm, drawing upon reason and feeling. Kody intervenes at key moments, voice firm but strained, attempting to clarify and defend against the weight of accusations, while Janelle's quiet presence radiates emotional tension, her subtle reactions speaking volumes about the pain and fear she feels. Mary's calculating eyes flick between participants, noting every microexpression, hesitation, and nuance, anticipating strategic opportunities. Out of the blue comes the electrifying confession, a revelation that involves several members of the family in collusion to deceive, betray, and emotionally manipulate. Kody's hands shake with the weight of the betrayal, jaw clenching in a combination of anger and dismay. Robin's breast heaves with sobs, water streaming down as the emotional impact is felt, while Christine leans forward, face set, eyes working the calculations of the confession to the game of her positioning. Janelle gasps softly, hands covering her mouth, struggling to comprehend the enormity of the revelation, and Mary's eyes gleam with the cold precision of someone analyzing the shifting landscape of power. The judge allows a brief pause, then instructs attorneys to continue, guiding the session toward resolution while leaving room for tension to simmer. Kody stands up, voice firm but shaky. The truth, however uncomfortable, has to lead us in our decisions. As Robin's voice is soft, tears streaming, begging for truth and comprehension in a whirlwind of feeling and dishonesty. Christine counters sharply, voice precise and cutting, seeking to capitalize on vulnerabilities exposed by the confessions and evidence, while Janelle remains visibly shaken, absorbing every word, and Mary's calculating gaze notes every opportunity, weighing the impact of each revelation. As the session nears its dramatic conclusion, final evidence is introduced. A hidden letter detailing confessions, admissions, and previously unknown alliances, implicating several family members in deception, manipulation, and secrecy. The room reacts instantly. Kody's hands shake as he reads, eyes wide with disbelief. Robin sobs quietly, chest heaving with emotional intensity. Christine leans forward, expression taut with calculation. Janelle gasps softly, overwhelmed by the truth. And Mary's eyes gleam with strategic anticipation, analyzing every implication for leverage.